Another cool thing I found is the fuel tank is all rotten on the bottom. Been working on this tank a little bit. It's got a lot of like brown reddish goo inside of it. It's pretty gnarly. I cut this access hole, so I'll have to make a cover plate for it. Just trying to kind of clean it up inside just to see what the inside looks like. So I'm going to take this to my buddy tomorrow and he's going to look at it and we're going to evaluate if this thing's repairable. I'm working on my inspection hatch lid, and this will be on the underside. And I'll have studs coming up through this for the fuel tank. So I'm just getting these cut out, and then we'll mark a bunch of holes and drill a bunch of holes, and at least this will be one part of the fuel tank restoration done. Yeah, I got my two pieces made. So I'm gonna look online and see how many bolts people are using to secure these to the tank. Well, it's not the most precise machining on planet Earth, but got a cover plate and then the brackets that will go underneath the inspection port. And this cover is only going to line up one way on these screws, so I'll have to make sure I install the halves the right way. Okay, so I'm still kind of trying to work this fuel tank fitment issue with wanting to move my water heater right here. Water heater needs about 13 inches of space. Right now, that's just not enough. So if you look already, the spout is too high, and so I need to go a little bit further back. That gives me 14. I have all this wiring that has to run back here too, so that takes up some space. I can clean this up a little bit and make it fit a little nicer, but essentially, for me to be able to slide this tank back at all, that fill tube needs to move. And really, the only place you can move it is onto the side of the tank. The hose could come down through here and into the side of the tank. So if I was to put the tank right here and extend the board out for support, that would give me, once it's screwed down, that would give me this much room, or the suction and return lines. Yeah, if we move the fill tube to the side, then I would be able to get my water heater in this space. Got the fuel tank back. So this used to be the fill tube. So that's welded up now to be a new vent. And here's the new fill tube. Got that welded on there nice. And welded up the old vent tube. And here's the patch. So I'm not putting this in today, but I brought it because I want to test fit everything. So I'm gonna move stuff here. Gotta get the water heater in, get the fuel tank in, get that board so I can get all my final measurements. Okay, we got the water heater in there. It's tucked in there against the wall real nice. Now that I got the wires a little bit more squared away. So next we'll bring in the fuel tank. Okay, well, it's all fitting in there. It'll fit just a tad bit lower because I'm going to cut a hole in the support board where the patch is. So that patch will be, that patch is pushing the tank up a little bit right now. The water heater is a ways from the wall down this way. I could angle it so the water heater comes up and is more level, and that would let me slide the tank down closer to the wall. So with the pads on where the rear pad used to sit, I have 1 1/4 inches clearance. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plan for this. I'm going to have that pad sit on where the old pad used to sit, and then that gives me nice separation between my water heater and the fuel tank. And I'll just go home, I'll bring the tank home, I'll screw all my fittings in, I'll measure and see what I think I'm going to need my clearance to be, and so I'll mark out right now the rear board and where I need to cut it, and then if I get home and the clearance just is not going to work, then I can always adjust. Alright, I got the piece for the fuel tank built, so that'll help it sit a little bit lower, hopefully give me a little bit more clearance. Just got all my holes drilled for the inspection port. I'm going to put a screw here and a screw here, which will thread into here and here. These will be on the inside, and that'll keep these from falling down in there. And then I'll have bolts threaded in, number 10s threaded into this to let that go through. The number 10s will go through these and into the cover, and then we'll snug it all up with a cork gasket. All right, I got those holes beveled, and I sanded it all inside. I sanded this edge. It's all nice and smooth. So go to town tomorrow and get those pieces I need. Last thing I really need to do is clean this tank out. It's full of lots of metal shavings, so I need to get it all cleaned out, and then do a pressure test on the tank. Spray it all with soapy water. Make sure there's no leaks on it, and then we can get this thing installed. I've been cleaning the inside of the tank really good. This was all black and just full of a bunch of crap, so it's all cleaner now. Trying to get it as clean as possible before I put fuel back in it. All right, I just got my pieces mounted inside, and then I got these little screws holding it in so it can't fall in, and then you got the top measured here. So tomorrow me and Shelly are going to go to the boat and do some painting and maybe run fuel lines and do some other stuff, and I'll go get a cork gasket for this and get the fuel sender, and then we'll plug all the holes up, put some air to it for some air pressure, and then spray soapy water everywhere and make sure we don't have any bubbles. All right, got it installed. All right, I just finished doing an air pressure test. I took an air chuck and put it on this side, and then capped all the exits on the tank, and took some basically soapy water, and I put it over all the different areas that got welded, and I didn't see any bubbles coming out anywhere that there were any repairs done or anywhere else. I think I'm going to paint the bottom of this tank with some epoxy to help protect it against future corrosion. Here I got 2 coats of Total Boat Total Protect epoxy primer barrier coat on the bottom of the fuel tank. Put it on pretty dang thick. Aluminum oxidizes extremely quickly, so what I did was I whipped up the epoxy and had it all ready to paint, and then I took my sander with the little woozy wheels, and I just very quickly sanded this whole thing up, got all the oxidation off. Nice shiny aluminum. I did the bottom of the mounting pads, and then wiped it down with some napkins to get all the dust off, and then I just slathered this stuff on. I don't really care how good it looks. I just wanted it on there nice and thick and to provide protection against future corrosion. We're getting ready to go into a kind of like a mini turnaround at work, so I'm just going to let this sit and dry for probably the next 4 or 5 days. And all the boat painting is done, so that can dry. And after all this work is done that's coming up, I can start getting all this stuff installed and start getting hoses connected and everything else, and hopefully get this boat back to sailing condition before too long.